Hello and welcome to Superpower Gaming. I'm Kevin Castley and thanks for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the Mirveda Protectorate from Twilight Imperium 4th Edition Discordant Stars fan expansion. Now these guys are interesting. They were one of the first factions that really caught my eye when I found out about Discordant Stars because I'm a huge fan of the PDS unit. And I really like being able to utilize PDS to make a hard time for my opponents. And these guys, the Mirveda Protectorate, have an uber powerful mobile PDS that's able to move to different planet systems, basically, or different systems. The thing about these guys, though, and as I looked more into the faction, I got a bit disappointed because it appears, at least, that they do not have deep space cannon that allows them to fire into adjacent systems available on their upgraded PDS. Now, if you know more about the Discordant Stars or you're more familiar with Mirveda Protectorate and that's incorrect, let me know down below. But based on what I can see in the faction wiki here and the faction details, they don't actually have a mobile PDS, and they don't have a PDS-2 that's capable of firing into adjacent systems. They do have a mobile PDS, but it's only confined to act within the system in which it's present. And if that's true, that's a big letdown. But they do have another ability that relates to their tech and the ability to get a lot of unit upgrade technologies, and that's kind of interesting. So we will look at these folks on a holistic level, even though I am a little bit disappointed about how it turned out with their upgraded PDS. But I do want to mention as well, we got their faction colors in the background as always. This is the Mirveda Protectorate, and we're going to go through their faction. So thanks for being here, and be sure to subscribe to this channel. We're doing every faction from Twilight Imperium, and, you know, it's a lot of fun. So these guys are a 2C, 2I faction, which is actually even worse than it sounds, actually. Because normally your optimal situation is to have 2C, 2 carriers, 4I, 4 infantry. Or even better, even more infantry, right? But the optimal is to have 2C, 4I minimum, right? These guys don't have that. These guys have 2C, 2I. That's not good. That's not a good starting allocation. Now, they do have other stuff going for them, and we can see here that they start initially with a cruiser. They also have 5 fighters, which is a huge allotment of fighters to start with. They also start with a space dock as per normal, and they also start with the PDS. And of course, I really like PDSs, so that's really cool. They have a starting technology of AI development algorithm. And that's kind of important because I already alluded to these guys having an ability to get more unit upgrade technologies. And of course, with AI development algorithm, you starting it from the get-go, it means that for every unit upgrade technology that you accumulate, for each one of them, you get to reduce the cost of your production when you exhaust AI dev algo by the number of unit upgrade technologies that you have. So normally people try to aim to get 3 because there are objectives that relate to that, and they max out at having 3 unit upgrade technologies. So you might have Fighter 2, you might have Dread 2, and you might have War Sons as an example, right? Or you might be more like me. You'll have PDS 2. You'll have Cruiser 2, and you might throw in or try to throw in there, War Sons or Fighter 2, for example, right? In which case, once you're at that level and you pop AI dev algo, you're going to be reducing your cost of production by 3, right? That's pretty good. If you've got Sarween tools to boot, you're reducing it by 4. You know, you can build a War Sun for a cost of 8. That's not bad, right? These guys can get a little bit more than 3 unit upgrade technologies, and we'll see why. But they also, we do need to talk about their homeworld. Their homeworld is a 2-planet system, which includes the planets Aldra, which is a 2-3, which is a pretty strong planet, and Beata, which is a 2-1. And that's out to a total of 4-4, which is not bad. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good in terms of production and influence, right? 2 is not the easiest to defend, but they start with a PDS, which means all you need is 1 construction and you're getting another PDS out to lock down your home world, right? and you can have another PDS adjacent to that, right? Now, the thing is, we already mentioned that their PDSs are mobile, and we'll talk about that. But that's going to be kind of important. I would caution you against taking out your starting PDS, though, because especially with planets that high in production and influence, and the fact that you need to control your home world in order to score objectives, I would leave that pretty well defended, right? Obviously, you want to move out to expand early on. Don't be tempted to move that PDS just because you have mobile PDS. You actually want to have more PDS in your home system. And we'll see why a little bit later, because given that their PDSs can't form an adjacency network with PDS2, you actually need to have the PDS present in that system. I would recommend, as soon as you can, having 2 PDS in your home world just to lock it down, right? Because the last thing you want is to not be able to score public objectives because you moved all your PDSs and stuff out to try to take other systems. So let's look at the faction ability here, or faction abilities. They have 2. The first is Privileged Citizenry. Each system can contain a number of your PDS units equal to the number of command tokens in your fleet pool. We, of course, start with 3 in our fleet pool, as per normal in Twilight Imperium, which means right from the get-go, we can actually have 3 PDS in a system, which is not bad, right? That's not bad. Additionally, we can get more. We could add fleet tokens, basically, to now allow us to have more PDS in a single system. Will we do that? I don't know, but we'll continue with Privileged Citizenry, which reads, for the purpose of scoring objectives, you may treat each of your PDS units as though it is a structure on any planet you control, which is pretty important, because what it means is that if you have a control objective, or you have like a structure objective, I should say, if you got a structure objective, have structures on 7 planets or something like that, I forget exactly the wording on it, you could technically, if you had a fleet pool of 7, you could have 7 PDS in your home world, and you could just say this one's actually on that planet, that one, and that one for scoring, and you could score that objective while having your home world completely bolstered down. That would actually be kind of flashy if you could pull that off. The second faction ability is the Combat Drones, which reads, your space docks cannot produce infantry. Now, this is really annoying, especially given that we only start with 2 infantry, right? At the start of invasion, you may replace each of your fighters in the active system with 1 infantry unit. Now, we do see there we have 5 fighters, which means that we could technically convert those into infantry, but it's a little bit awkward, right? It's a little bit awkward. During invasion, your infantry in the space area of the active system do not count against your ship's capacity. Okay. That's kind of annoying. Now, their complexity rating is given moderate. I actually think this faction's a little bit difficult to win with. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not going to be easy given these restrictions. Now, let's look at the faction promissory note. This one you're going to be giving to another player in exchange for something. It's a pretty valuable promissory note, and it reads, at the start of your turn, you may move up to 2 PDS units you control to a planet you control. Then return this card to the Mirveda player. Now, that can be pretty powerful. So let's imagine a situation in which somebody else, who's obviously not the Mirveda Protectorate, so they can't move their PDS around. The only way they're getting out PDS is popping construction or doing the secondary construction, and they're locked down on whatever system they put them on. Well, let's say we've got, let's just say, for example, we've got the Nazaroka in the game. And the Nazaroka come to be your friend, and, you're trading with them and stuff. And you decide, okay, I'm going to give you rapid assembly and, a couple trade goods or whatever. Okay. It might not seem like that powerful, or maybe you do it for like a relic fragment or something like that, or maybe you just do it for 1 trade good potentially. Maybe you don't think that rapid assembly is that powerful. And, your buddy who's Nazaroka, they're exploring planets and doing stuff and everything. They don't look too aggressive or whatever. Now they've got access to this. Now they take Mechatol Rex. You were thinking about taking Mechatol Rex, but they took it. But it's okay because you guys are like on good terms. You guys are trading and stuff, but You know, it would have been nice if you had been able to take it. But they took it, and they took Mechatol Rex. Okay. Well, that's okay. I mean, somebody could kick them out of Mechatol. You could potentially kick them out of Mechatol. Oh, wait, they popped Rapid Assembly, and they just moved 2 of their PDSs into Mechatol Rex. Oh, wow. And now they've done construction, and they've, they've brought out a space dock on Mechatol. Uh-oh. Now they're producing on Mechatol. They've got 2 PDS on Mechatol, and now they've got a fleet on Mechatol all of a sudden out of nowhere. So rapid assembly is pretty important. And I'll tell you, that scenario is your friend basically does that. Now imagine your enemy gets access to this. So when you're selling this away, just be aware that whoever you're giving that to is going to use it to essentially make whatever planet they want untouchable, right? So that's just something to be aware of. So don't let this bite you. If you have the attitude of this is too powerful, I'm not even going to think about selling it, I can understand that, right? It's not the most game-breaking ability, but it is kind of game-breaking because the whole thing about PDS before Discordant Stars was they're just fixed. They're on whatever planet they're on. This does kind of break the game in that sense. Is it going to win the game? Probably not. But it can definitely change the geopolitical situation in the galaxy where nobody was expecting 2 PDSs to just spawn out of nowhere on a particular planet. Maybe it's a legendary planet. Maybe there's a control objective to hold certain legendary planets. And now all of a sudden you just made it so that a different player was able to secure that objective resolutely. That could be kind of problematic. So I would say this is one of those that's kind of a gray area faction promissory note where you have some like the Nazroka, or I shouldn't say Nazroka, the Jolnar player, their promissory note, they are wanting to give it away and get a lot of money for it every turn. You want to make a lot of money with that, right? And then you have other ones like the Asaro tribes where you're never going to sell that. You never want to sell that. These guys somewhere in between. And let me know in the comments down below if you're playing as Mirveda Protectorate, would you consider selling this one? And what would you charge for it? Or do you think it's just too powerful and too risky to give your potential opponent down the road the ability to mobilize their PDSs? Because that's your thing, right? Your thing is that you can do that. Now you're giving it to somebody else, right? And you're taking a lot of hampering to have that as your ability. Because we've already talked about how your infantry are more awkward, right? And how you only start with 2. But to compensate, you have like these mobile PDSs, which we'll talk about. I don't know. I mean, you're giving that to somebody else. You should get something in return for it. But if you're going to do that, let's look at their faction technologies. We have the Orbital Defense Grid. At the start of invasion, choose up to 1 unit you control in the active system. That unit gains Planetary Shield. When a player commits a unit to land on a planet you control, you may exhaust this card to destroy that unit. Now, it is 2 red prereqs. It's a red technology, but we start with a red tech. So we actually only need 1 more red tech, right? And that's pretty good. I think the thing about the Planetary Shield is one thing. Obviously, we're like a PDS faction, but the thing is, that second part, when a player commits a unit to land on a planet you control, you may exhaust this card to destroy that unit. It's kind of insane because what it means is like they have to bring in more than 1 in order to even have a shot. Getting a hit right off it's not even a hit, it's just completely destroying a unit. If they brought in a mech, it's gone. If they brought in a mech and an infantry, they're only now having a mech. That's a pretty powerful defensive technology. It's pretty good. And if you're going to combo it with other PDS stuff, like Graviton, for example, you can be very powerful in terms of holding down the fort. Let's look at our faction-specific units. So this is what I've been talking about, the Gauss Cannon 1 and the Gauss Cannon 2. This is their special PDS. It's the only mobile PDS in Twilight Imperium, and it's something. So we have in the Gauss Cannon 1, we have a cost of nothing, combat nothing, movement of 1. That's kind of crazy, right? You never see that. Movement of 1, capacity of nothing. Okay. Obviously, you only get this out with construction, but here's the thing. The abilities here. we've got Space Cannon 6. So standard, PDS shots, Space Cannon 6, 50% chance we're going to do a hit when space combat starts. But look at this, Bombardment 6. So we're shooting up into space, but we can also go up in space and shoot down on the ground. 6, 50% chance we're going to hit an infantry or mech on the ground. Well, that's kind of wild. This unit is placed in a space area instead of on a planet. This unit can move and retreat as if it were a ship. This unit can be blockaded. If it is blockaded, it is destroyed. Now, I'll say don't let your PDSs get blockaded. They're too expensive to lose. Prereqs none, we start with it. Now, we move on to Gauss Cannon 2. It moves up to Space Cannon 4, which is more powerful than a standard PDS 2, which is a 5. This is a 4. And Bombardment 4. So now we're 60% chance of hits, right? That's pretty wild. This unit is placed on... No, this is 70%. I should clarify. That's a 70% chance of a hit because there's no zero. So it's 1, 2, 3, we don't, and then everything else we do. That's a 70% chance of a hit in either case. It's pretty crazy. Look at this. We have a movement of 2, capacity 1. It can actually transport units. That's kind of wild. It's your standard PDS2 prereqs, which is a red and a yellow. We start with a red. We could get a yellow. We could get Sartween, or we could skip to Graviton. And now we've got these super powerful mobile PDS cannon transports that are insane. They can bombard. They can do everything basically, except they can't. It doesn't look like they can fire into adjacent systems. It doesn't say deep space cannon, unless that's an error, unless that's a mistake. So if you know more about this, let me know. But it looks like it's only that it is restricted to only be able to deal out damage within the system that it's located in, which is really a downer, given that I really like PDS and I really like PDS2 and I like the Troll Toll and I like having deep space cannon. This unit is placed in the space area instead of on a planet. This unit can move and retreat as if it were a ship. This unit can be blockaded. If it is blockaded, it is destroyed. Definitely don't let them be destroyed. That's my advice there. But no, it doesn't say deep space cannon unless that's an error. The Flagship is the Nexus. It's a cost of 8, combat 9 times 2, dismal, terrible combat rating, right? Movement of 1, capacity 3, very lackluster. But let's look at the abilities. The abilities here: sustain damage, and after each round of space combat in this system, place 1 fighter from your reinforcements in this system. That's okay. That's okay because we can convert them later into infantry. I still think it's kind of a bad flagship. I think the whole thing about us not being able to produce infantry is kind of bad. And this and the conversion thing, ultimately, I think it's still kind of lame. And I'm not really buying that as a niche, especially if we don't have deep space cannon. That severely hampers us, but it doesn't give us as much of a benefit to space cannons to make up for it, in my view. But if you disagree, let me know. I'd be interested in hearing the other side on that. But let's look at their mechs. The mech is the Javelin. For every 2 unit upgrade techs you own, apply +1 to the result of this unit's combat rolls. It has sustained damage, standard cost of 2, standard combat 6. Now, you might think, well, that's kind of crazy. 2 unit upgrades. I'm lucky to get that many in a single game, you know? Even if you're trying, even if the objectives demand it, you max out at 3, that rounds down to 2. That's only a +1 here. These guys are a little different, and we'll see why with their leader suite. They are capable of getting more unit upgrades pretty easily. There's a scenario in which they're getting a +3 out of this, which would bring their combat down to a 3. Now, that's going to take a lot of time to build. That's only really going to be relevant in the late game. At the end of the day, though, it's not the best mech. Definitely better mechs out there. A +1 or a +2 out of this, which is probably standard. Probably standard on average with a game of these guys. You're getting probably a +2 with 4 or 5 unit upgrade techs. Okay, so it goes down to combat 4. I don't know. I mean, we're not going to be producing a lot of infantry. We're going to be relying on mechs, right? Yeah, I don't know. They're only 1 health point, right? I mean, like, they can sustain, but they're only 1 health point at the end of the day. So let's look at our leaders. We start with our agent, which is this hexagonal looking cryogonal thing from Pokemon. It looks kind of cool. It's like a snowflake. This is the Logic Machina weapons development. At game start, we unlock it, of course, and the ability is after a player gains a unit upgrade technology, you may exhaust this card to allow that player to spend 1 token from their strategy pool to research 1 technology of the same color as any one of that unit's prerequisites. So this is what I was talking about. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's easier for us to research unit upgrade techs, but what it means is that we're more motivated to research upgrade techs because we can get another tech out of that. So what that means is, why research, I don't know, fleet logistics when you could research Dread 2 and then get fleet logistics for another token. Now, what's important to note here is you're going to want to have tokens in your strategy pool. Like, you're going to want to have tokens in your fleet pool, you're going to want to have action tokens, and you're going to want to have tokens in your strat pool to take full advantage of this, which means I feel that these guys are going to really favor leadership. I think these guys favor leadership. I think these guys favor construction. And I think these guys don't favor grabbing tech as much because all they need is to do the secondary attack, and they're getting 2 technologies, but they got to have those tokens. I think leadership over tech is more powerful for the Mirveda Protectorate. Let me know if you disagree. Let's move on to our commander, which is this fractal looking like weird guy. Like, is that even alive? This is the Assault Machina Delta Shield. Our requirement to unlock it is to own 2 unit upgrade techs, which, we're going to get that. During movement, for each infantry you transport, you may replace that unit with 1 fighter. You may use the space cannon of 1 of your units against units that are adjacent to that unit system. So, yeah, that basically compensates by not having deep space cannon, because it is clarifying here it's space cannon in an adjacent system. The problem is we're only doing 1 of them. So, like, we're a PDS faction. We're going to have a lot of PDS, ideally. But we can only do 1. I don't know. I remember playing as Argent Flight and having a bunch of PDS and doing a lot of damage in other systems with a lot of PDS units. These guys can only do 1, and that's their thing, is the PDSs. So, I don't know. That's kind of annoying to me. I wish they had deep space cannon. This would be so much more cool of a faction if they had deep space cannon, and I don't think it would be game-breakingly bad to the point where they had to do this. They had to restrict it. Otherwise, these guys would win every game. I don't think they would. I think it would just make them relatively a fair compromise, having awkward infantry, but having an advanced mobile space cannon that can hit into adjacent systems. Again, you only start with 1. It's not like you have a bunch of them to start with. Like, it's still going to be a challenge to get these guys out, right? Now, our hero does help with that, and we'll talk about our hero here now, who is the Wrath Machina AI mainframe. So I guess it's not even alive. It's like a fractal-looking computer thing. It looks kind of cool. Doors Hammer, Peace at Last. The action here is to place up to 3 PDS units from your reinforcements on planets you control. Now that's cool, right? We're getting 3 out there. That's 1.5 constructions right there, right? That's pretty flashy on planets you control. And choose 1 system. Your PDS units may use their space cannon on ships in that system and bombardment against units on 1 planet in that system. Then purge this card. So when it says choose 1 system, it appears to me that they don't actually have to be present in that system. You could even spawn these guys on your homeworld planets and then choose a different system and somewhere else like Mechatol, and they can bombard that and do space cannon in that system, and then you move in there from a different system with other guys afterwards. That's how I read it, which is kind of wild. They just out of nowhere just boom, it's like a Death Star sort of thing. That's kind of cool. But again, the problem with these guys is that we have to use like advanced components of our leader suite, our commander and our hero, just to get to a point where we're on par with other factions that have PDS2, but we hit slightly better and we're mobile. That's kind of the difference. But if we can just hit anywhere with our hero, that mobility is not as important per se, right? It's still good. It's still better to be mobile than to not, but we're suffering in a lot of other areas. So, for example, we're only 3 commodities. That's not the best. We only start with 1 tech. That's not the best. And, and red's okay. Red's okay, and we do want PDS too. So, but our infantry are awkward. And we don't really have anything else going for us. Our homeworld looks cool. Don't get me wrong. It definitely looks cool. And it's a pretty substantial homeworld. But I don't know. Let's take a look at the frequently asked questions, though, because I'm a little iffy on these guys now. But there's a question here. Does the Mirveda commander only allow use of space cannon during the Mirveda player's movement? The answer is no. It allows one of the Mirveda units to use the space cannon against ships and adjacent systems anytime there is a space cannon opportunity. However, only one unit may benefit from this effect at any given time or for any given space cannon opportunity. So, but it's only one. And that's it. There's no question asking about, well, do these guys have deep space cannon? Everybody else can get deep space cannon. I don't know. I mean, to me, when I think about, I'm going to upgrade my PDSs, yay, people are like, oh no, you fire at us now, No, apparently not. Apparently not. Now, you can move them in and use them for combat, but don't let them be destroyed. They're not really easy to get. You're still only getting these guys out with construction. Like, the only way that I could see these guys making more sense of it is if they have like a third faction ability that said you can produce space cannons at a space dock for a cost of, say, 4 or something weird, or if that was included on their, Gauss cannon and it said, a cost of 4 or cost of 5 even. But no, there's no cost. You have to use the construction card to do it. So you're capped at 2 per turn if you use it, or 1 per turn for a command token. I don't know. I think these guys are actually hard. I think these guys are more complex than it's made out to be. And I was really stoked on them. And the more I found out about them, the less stoked I am on them. But I like their aesthetics. I think they could still be fun to play with, but I just don't know if they're going to have the easiest time winning. The agent is really cool, though. I really like that, you're really incentivized to go for unit upgrade techs. Now, objective-wise, those don't come out that often. Technologies are not as important in Discordant Stars and POK, in the POK and post-POK era. They're not as important as they were in just Twilight Imperium Classic, essentially. There's a lot of objectives that can come out there. You might get a bunch of unit upgrade technologies and there's never any tech objectives that come out. My last game I played, we didn't really have any tech objectives that came out the whole game. You still want tech, and it's still cool to get 2 tech in 1 turn, right? And it's cool to get a lot of your stuff unit upgraded, right? The fact that we're red, we're going red-yellow, we can definitely be a War Sun faction, but they're still expensive. They're still expensive. I think at the end of the day, I think these guys are kind of cool. They look cool. They're kind of cool, but they're also kind of difficult. And I think these guys are a little bit underpowered at the end of the day. But let me know what you think. Do you think these guys are actually overpowered? Is there something I'm missing here, or a strategy that you've thought about that I hadn't considered that allows these guys a very high probability of completely destroying the opposition and winning the game? Let me know. Be sure to comment down below. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, Superpower Gaming, because I'm doing faction reviews for everything in Twilight Imperium and POK and Discordant Stars. And as well, while you're at it, be sure to subscribe to my main channel, SuperpowerBroadcasting. We do news and politics and stuff. And go follow me on X as well. I'm on there at Kevin Castley. This has been, fun to talk about. As I say, I love PDS. I love them more when they can fire to adjacent systems consistently, right? Without having to do complicated stuff to get one to do that. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer on these guys now, but with that, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. So take care. Peace.